Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you how to lube your mechanical keyboard switches as fast and efficiently as possible. As a keyboard hobbyist, I understand that lubing switches can be monotonous and time consuming, but fear not, I've experimented with a variety of lubing methods and I've settled on what I think is the best way to lube my linears and tactiles while saving the most time. Whether you're a beginner or have some experience with lubing, stick around because I do things a little differently and you might learn something new. But first, let me explain what lubing is all about to all the people new to the hobby. Basically, lubing is the process of applying lubricant inside your mechanical keyboard switches. So, why should you lube your switches? For starters, it significantly improves the feel of your switches. Lube reduces friction and creates a much smoother performance, resulting in a more satisfying typing feel. Additionally, lube can help remove unwanted sounds like spring pinging, resulting in a more pleasant auditory experience. Now onto the good stuff. I'm going to show you guys what tools and supplies I use to lube my switches. I'll leave links down below where you can purchase everything you need. The things you need are tweezers, thick lube, a switch opener, thin lube, a brush, and some sandwich bags. Switches are tiny and have even tinier parts. A good pair of tweezers is a must when handling things so small. My favorite tweezers are these ones made by iFixit, and in this set I practically only use the angled ones. You can try lubing switches without them, but having something to hold the parts is a significant quality of life upgrade. For lubes, I use Krytox 205G0 as my thick lube and Krytox 105 as my thin lube. 205G0 is everyone in the hobby's favorite because it's the most versatile, consistent, and generally gives the best results. If you're only going to pick up one type of lube, this is the one to get because it can be used for everything. The thin lube I like to use is Krytox 105. This is a very oily lube as you can see, and it's my favorite for lubing springs. A good switch opener is a must if you plan on lubing switches more than once. My favorite is this red aluminum one that can open both cherry and kale style switches. I used to use a pretty poorly made 3D printed one and it made opening switches a nightmare. This aluminum switch opener is so easy to use and I highly recommend everyone gets one. Having a nice thin brush will ensure you only get lube on the parts you want. The one I'm using is from Divinity, but any size 0 brush will do. I used to use paintbrushes myself, so there's really no need to purchase a new brush if you already have one. Just make sure it's nice and clean. Sandwich bags are the key to saving the most time when lubing. They don't even have to be bags necessarily, any resealable container will do. And that's everything. Again, all the supplies will be down in the description for your reference. Before we move on, remember to like the video and subscribe to help my channel grow. I also have some other social media platforms as well, so check those out if you're interested. I lube my linear and tactile switches differently, but these beginning steps are the same for both. I'll let you guys know when I do something specifically meant for only linears or tactiles. The switches I'll be lubing today are the Akko V3 cream switches. I made a review video on these switches already, so give that a watch after this one if you haven't already. The first thing to do when lubing switches is to open them up and separate them into their individual parts. To do that, simply take your switch, align it properly on the opener, and press down. The switches I'm using have kale style housings, so I use that side of the switch opener. And it's as simple as that. Opening and closing switches can take a lot of time. The quickest way to do it is to open them all at once before moving on. Opening and lubing your switches one at a time is going to slow you down. Plus, we're going to need all these switches open to perform our first major trick. Separate your switches into 4 groups, create nicely organized piles, and put your springs into the sandwich bag. What we're going to do next is called bag lubing. Inside our sandwich bag is all of our springs. All I'm going to do is put in a couple of drops of Krytox 105. If you don't know how much to use, a good amount to start with is 1 drop of Krytox per every 10 springs. But because this is a completely clean bag, I'm going to put in a little bit extra. You can use Krytox 205G0 if you didn't pick up the 105. And then all you need to do is seal it up and shake it for about a minute or 2. What this does is evenly distributes the lube to all the springs. You'll know you're done shaking when you see the bag and springs have a nice even coating of lube throughout. And just like that, you save yourself a whole 30 or so minutes of hand lubing the springs. Once you're done, don't throw the bag away because you can reuse it the next time you lube switches. This next method will only apply to linear switches. This may seem silly, but we're gonna bag lube the stems too. I first heard about doing this from my brother who said Teha Types does this, but I didn't actually fact check him on that. Regardless, I've bag lubed stems in the past, and you guys might be surprised with the results when you try it yourself. Instead of using the Krytox 105, I like to use 205G0 for my stems. There's no real specific amount to use, just start out with whatever you think is reasonable and add more as you see necessary. You're aiming for a thin, transparent coating on everything. The stem should shine and not have any white globs. And that's all the lube I use for my linears. Before we do tactiles, let me show you how to reassemble these switches first. Take your bottom housing and insert a spring. Then, place a stem, making sure to align the legs with the leaf on the bottom housing. Place your top housing, again making sure to align the back with the leaf. Be careful not to misorient anything because you'll ruin the switch if you don't do it correctly. To close everything, press the stem in before closing the top housing. I learned this assembly method from Gazoo, the creator of the Boba U4Ts. Not pressing the stem in during reassembly runs the risk of damaging your leaf. Honestly, these switches will work properly even if you don't do this, but not doing so can change how the switch feels. This is more of a concern for tactile switches, but I think it's just best practice to do it for linears as well. The fastest way to reassemble all your switches is to do them in batches, or even better, all at once. Organize a row of bottom housings, place a spring in each, then a stem, and then close them up. And just keep going until you finish. Lubing Tactiles is going to be different than Lubing Linears because you don't want to get any lube onto the legs of the stems. To start out, open your switches and bag lube the springs the same way as we did before. This next method also comes from Gazoo. Because the goal is to not get any lube on the stem legs, we're going to skip lubing the stems altogether. The reason we don't want to lube the legs is that getting any lube on them is going to significantly change the tactile feeling. Your switches will feel more like linears, which defeats the purpose of getting tactiles in the first place. The only lube we're going to be applying is going to be on the bottom housing. Using some Krytox 205G0, carefully place a thin layer of lube on the rails where the stem and housings will touch. Be careful not to get any lube anywhere else. We're just looking for a nice shine and no white globs. To save yourself the most time, lube all the bottom housings in one go before assembling. Once complete, assemble your switches the same way as I showed before. Remember to press the stem in before closing the housing. And that's how I lube my switches. In future videos, unless I say otherwise, if I tell you I lubed some switches and didn't show it, this is how I did it. Overall, it's safe to say I take a very less is more approach. Obviously, results are going to vary from switch to switch. Higher end switches that are already good stock will be the best to lube quickly. Budget switches might benefit more from traditional hand lubing. But overall, this should help you save a bunch of time without sacrificing much performance. If you want to see the results of the lubing, check out my review video on the switches. I performed some sound tests of them both stock and lubed. Remember to subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.